We've got some fresh new young talent doing some things that I know you haven't heard before.
1, 2, 3, listen.
Welcome to Finances, your home for all things financial, investment, money and lifestyle. Hosted and curated by the very talented team of certified financial planners, Burke Britton Financial Partners. This is the Finances podcast, and I'm going to say that you are a long-time listener, first-time guest. And for those who don't know who I'm talking about, it is Teresa Frangos. Now, Teresa, have you got a middle name?
No, I don't.
Okay, I searched for your middle name before we jumped on. But for clients out there listening to this, everyone for the last decade has known Teresa as our front of house, our reception here at Burke Britton. For those of you that haven't had the delight of coming into our office, Teresa has been looking after Burke Britton clients. Were we always Burke Britton? We've been Burke Britton the entire time that you've been
the
here?
whole time.
Yeah. So, Teresa, before we started recording, or just before I said start, you said that you're an avid listener to our podcast, and you know if you've been listening to our podcast that we like to delve back a little bit into people's history. Mm-hmm. So this is probably the first time I've asked you a few of these questions. So let's go way back to where you were born, where you grew up, what childhood was like. Eventually we'll get to how you found your way to be front of house with us, but let's go way back. Where were you born?
I was born in Tasmania. My parents are Italian and they come from different parts of Italy. My dad comes from the top and mum comes from Calabria. They actually met in Tasmania because it was a time where they were mining. My dad was mining and my mum was married before and she came out with her husband and he died in a mining collapse.
So when did your parents actually come out? Did they come out post-World War?
1950s, I would say.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and they met in Tasmania, in Launceston.
Okay. So
that's where I was born.
The Italians gravitated towards each other back in the 1950s. Did they meet long after landing in Tassie?
Well, as I said, my mum was already married, so maybe she was in the country a year or so and before her husband was killed in the mine collapse. And I guess with the Italian community, they got around her and organised her to meet somebody else because she had my older sister. She had one child, and that's when she met my dad.
Were they arranged marriages? Like you said,
it could be. I don't know much about it, but I think it would have been an arranged marriage. They saw my mum on her own. They saw my dad not married, so he was in his 30s, so he's probably considered older.
Okay.
To be unmarried at that stage. Was
your mum and her husband that passed away? Did they have any children?
Yes, they had one daughter. Yep. So she was maybe she was 4, 5.
Okay, so that would be your half sister.
Yes.
Yes, and you still.
Yes, we're all good.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's still alive and living in New South Wales. And then I have another sister, Fran, that you...
Oh, I know Fran very well, very well, yes.
Well, she was born in Geelong. So I was 11 months when we came to Geelong because my dad got rheumatic fever and the doctor said to go to warmer climates. Oh. So they didn't pick it out very well, did they? So they came to Geelong because I think they had a more Italian community that they knew here as well.
It was interesting around that time, I suppose, sort of post-World War II, and a lot of Europeans were sort of migrating out to Australia. And, there were a lot of, my wife's parents, Mel or Margaret, her mother, Dutch, and there was a lot of Europeans that were making their way out at that time. So you landed in Geelong as an 11-month-old. Whereabouts in Geelong were you based?
We were based in North Geelong. So I think they stayed with some other Italian families and then they bought their house in Victoria Street, North Geelong.
And there was no mining as such in Geelong. What was your dad doing?
He was working at Ford or International Harvester. I don't think that's around anymore. Just, working from factories.
Yeah, and your mum? Was your mum a stay-at-home mum or what?
Well, my mum, I think it was a bit before her time. She was a stay-at-home mum, but she learned to speak English very quickly. She was the one that learned to drive, so, she was involved in the community a little bit more with the Italian community, with the English, like interpreting things like that. So she didn't work.
So your mum and your dad, when they both came out, didn't speak a lick of English? No. That amazes me. I know that Kari's grandparents were the same. Like they just jump on a boat or a plane and go the other side of the world and not know the language and then have to try and learn. It's hard to fathom.
It's hard, isn't it? So, so my mum just learned from meeting people in the street, I suppose, getting to know other neighbours. She learned that way. She was very clever in that way.
So were there any local community groups that your mum was involved in?
They would have been involved in the Italian group that are around and, get together every now and then. But of course in those groups you just speak Italian.
Yeah.
You don't get to learn to speak English.
And so when did Fran arrive?
So she arrived 2 years after, about 18 months after we came here. So yeah, that's right. She's only 22 months older than I'm 22 months older than her. And then they had another daughter. She was born in 1963, but she was severely handicapped. And at that stage you kept them home. You didn't home them anywhere. So that's how our upbringing was. We were more stayed at home sort of family because you couldn't take her out.
Yeah. And
so it was very hard for my parents at that stage.
Yeah, well, this is probably one of the things that in today's day and age a lot of us take for granted when we have kids with disabilities, that we're actually so well supported today with the things like the NDIS, and historically those things just didn't exist. Parents had to stay at home and be full-time carers for their children, with a lot less government support and probably more community support.
Well, she did have someone come around maybe once a month to give her a break, go out, but at that stage, not very much support. But for me now to see it happen the other way, it's great to see them out in the street, going to school, getting the support they need. So that's very good at this stage.
Yeah, it's amazing how many organisations now actually exist, and I know a number of them that we've kind of linked arms with, the likes of Kids Plus in the Geelong region. They're just doing great things for kids with disabilities or with challenging circumstances. It's back to your upbringing in North Geelong. Whereabouts did you go to school? Did you go to North Geelong Primary or?
No, I went to a Catholic school, Holy Family, in Separation Street.
Yes.
And then in high school we went to Stella Maris, and the nuns they had a convent there where retired nuns used to go to live. So they set up a little school there, and then from there
So Stella, I've never heard of that. What is?
You know where Rippleside is?
Yes.
Up there on the cliff, you can have a look at it now. I think they're making it into apartments, and it was a beautiful spot up there. Of course, the nuns had it there, a lovely place, and they set up a school up there for us.
Now, did you have fond memories of your high school, or was it a very sort of strict Catholic school with lots of discipline and?
Yeah, it was a bit like that, but as I said, they were for retired nuns that went up there, so we didn't have the best schooling at that stage, but that's how it was. So what, close by.
During your schooling, what were you gravitating towards? Were the nuns trying to encourage people into the clergy or into the Catholic system, or were you encouraged to think about what you might like to do beyond school?
Well, I don't remember any encouragement of that sort at all, but we were encouraged, of course, to keep our religion. Yeah, so yeah, it was. I don't have many memories of that time, fond memories or bad memories. It was just school.
And was Fran going to school with you? Was she a couple of years behind you at the same school?
Yes, yeah. That's right.
And were you still joined at the hip? I know whenever we have an event, Fran's right sidled up beside you. Did Fran and you grow up doing everything together, or did you have your own sort of separate pathways as you were?
Well, we had our separate friends, but we more or less were together most of the time. Yeah.
And separate to school, you said that you spent a lot of time at home, and your mum particularly looking after your sister, but did you play?
Yes, I played a lot of sport. We were involved in sport. We played netball, softball. Later on, we still played volleyball. So there was a lot of sport.
Which was your sport of choice, Teresa?
All of those. I enjoyed all of them. So we started with softball, and then through school we played netball, and then after school I still played netball with the friends that I had made there. After I left school in high school, we still played netball.
So what year did you graduate from high school? This is going to age you. I'm sorry, Teresa.
That's okay. So let's see, 16. I finished school.
Okay. And so did you finish in year 10 or what?
11 it would have been, year 11.
Okay. And then after school, did you have an idea of what you wanted to do?
Okay. I had no idea because we didn't have any direction in that. Mum would love me to have been a secretary. Her biggest ambition for me would be. So. But I got a job straight away.
Well, the dream came true, didn't it?
Sort of. I got a job straight away at GMHBA, and I worked there until I started my family.
What was it called, GMHBA back then? It was.
It's always GMHBA, yeah.
So straight out of school, so as a 17-year-old, you got a job at GMHBA. Can you remember how you got that job? Was that through word of mouth from family, or did you apply for it?
Yeah, I think there was a position available and I applied for it and got it that way. Yeah, so I've always been involved in talking to people, which I love to do.
Yeah, you can kind of tell.
So I was there for 15 years.
Wow. Okay, so from 17 through to 32, you're at GMHBA. You're dealing with clients. Were you in? Did they have an office and people?
Yeah, we only had the one office in Murrible Street, which is still there now, but it's been renovated. So customers came in and paid their insurance there, and also made claims, medical claims there. So yeah.
And you had fond memories of the
I loved
GMHBA
it.
years?
Yes, made a lot of friends there. It was great.
You still keep in touch with people from those days?
Yes, still have friends from those days.
Now, you said you finished up when you started your family. Now, who was your firstborn out of the kids?
Amy, my daughter, was born in 88 and then Scotty was born in 90.
Okay, great. And which of those were the easiest kids to rear? Was it the
Amy? Only because she slept through the night. I mean, they were both good kids, but Scotty as soon as I took him home from hospital, he says, "No, I'm not sleeping."
He just wanted to cry the whole time?
Yeah.
Does he still cry now?
Sometimes.
And you had the kids, and how long did you actually have out of the workforce
I went back part-time when Scotty started school. So I went back in retail. I was able to find a job in retail part-time.
So is that kind of mid-90s? Am I getting that close?
Yes.
Yep. And where did you go in your retail years?
First of all, I worked at a surf shop, like a surf clothing shop.
Like Speakies or something?
Something like that, yes.
Okay.
But it wasn't Speaking. It was just a friend of my husband's that was started up a shop, so he gave me the position there, which was great. I worked between school hours. And then they closed down, and I went to work in retail at Corai Village in Manchester.
Manchester? Is that like
sheets and
linen and...
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Doona covers, towels. So I worked there. And then I think I worked there for 5 years. 3 or 5 years, and then I stopped. And I said to everyone I retired at that age. I was very happy.
How long ago was this?
Could have been, I've been here 10, maybe 15 years ago.
Okay, so you finished with Manchester in Corai Village in sort of late noughties, so 2008 thereabouts, and you were planning to retire?
Yeah, I was telling everyone, "Oh, that's it, I finished work, I retired." I was happy to do that, but then of course, life like how you plan, and I had to go out and find work when my husband and I separated.
Yeah. And so your first foray into looking for work after that little break or that mini retirement, was it us or was it something else?
No, I was working in Pakenham Street. I was working for an architectural firm, Third Ecology. I worked there for 3 years. And it was also a time when we had a little mini recession. So, of course, the architect is the first one. You're not going to go and get your plans done. It costs too much money.
So this would be around global financial crisis 2008, thereabouts.
Maybe.
Yep.
So he was closing down, or he's going, getting rid of people and just being on his own. But he gave me the opportunity to learn about computers and gave me a few courses, let me have a few courses. So it was a good step because before that I never was on the computer. So when I hear a lot of clients say, "I don't know how to use a computer," I understand exactly what they mean. So unless you're using it every day, you don't know. So from there, well, I was in a bit of a worry. I thought, what am I going to do now? I'm a little mortgage, so I had a mortgage, and my children were living with me at home still. And I had applied for a few jobs, but it wasn't very successful. And then I applied for this one, thinking that I'd never hear back. But that's the one you hear back from.
Now, so you've just gone 10 years with us. So last week we celebrated your 10 years with Burke Britton. Who interviewed you for your job?
David White and Brooklyn.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and how did it go? You thought you did a terrible job in the interview, did you? Or?
I didn't know. I thought it was all right. It wasn't a very long interview, so I thought, it seemed okay, so we'll just wait and see. Can
you remember what we were advertising for at the time? Was it reception?
I think it was reception. You had a lot of part-time or casual people coming in at that stage because there was a casual girl there that showed me a few of the ropes. But I think it must have been reception because it was through the recruitment centre, Hayes.
That's right, yes.
Yeah. So, yes, it was reception.
So you got the job. And you started with us 10 years ago. What were your first impressions of working for us? Did you know what we did?
No, I didn't know anything about financial planning. So, no, I didn't know. And well, it was in the big office, I remember, and I was sitting out the front on my own. So I was going, I hope I can do this job. So, because everyone else was so busy out the back.
We were looking busy. We were pretending to be busy, Teresa.
Well, you did a good job. You fooled me. So I thought, I'll just do what I can, and hopefully that works.
And having now been here for 10 years, you started knowing very little about who we are and what we do, and probably even having no appreciation of the clients. You've now got 10 years of history of having known Peter, myself and Delta and Amy and Ben and the new team. We've got some new members of the team, but also the nearly 500 clients that when they call through and speak to Teresa, even though some of them might get your name wrong occasionally and call you Therese. How many different names have you been called at reception?
Just a few, less than 5.
So what are some of your fondest memories of the business and also the clients over that 10-year period?
Well, as I said, I always say that I have the best job because I can, just sit in the reception area and talk to the clients. And we're so lucky we have some beautiful people coming into us. And of course, it took a little while to get to know them because they said, oh, another receptionist. I wonder what they're doing wrong. So it took a few years for the clients to get used to me being there and being more open with me. So, and that was lovely too, to get to know them and be able to talk about their lives, their children, what's happening with them. And, that's great. And how smart, and I always thought how smart they were to get some financial help at a time when it wasn't the thing to do.
Yeah, I think you're right. That is, people are still in the minority of actually seeking advice. And I think the thing that gets a little bit lost on a lot of people is that they have a perception that financial planning is very clinical, that it's just about the numbers or the money. And what we try to do and what you have been at the forefront of for our clients is recognizing that they're actually part of our family, like they're part of our business family, and that we're interested in all parts of their life.
Yes.
Like not just about them making money. That's important because it helps them to do the things they want to do from a lifestyle perspective, but it's everything else that we're interested in. Financial planning is not really financial planning. It's about life planning. It's about lifestyle planning. It's about being able to do the things that you want to do with your kids. And
yes, and you as advisors, you have to know every part of their lives, really. And I call you financial priests, really, because it's confidential.
I remember that little blog you did.
Yes.
So we might actually put that in the show notes. Teresa did a little blog for us, which was, I think, called Financial Priests.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's a good analogy. It's your Catholic upbringing coming back to the fore, Teresa. Are there any, without talking about any client situations, are there any sort of highs or lows in the business that you want to share, things that you really remember fondly or things that have been challenging over your 10 years with us?
Oh, I haven't had many challenges. Of course, for me, it's always sad when one of our clients pass away because they are close to us, they're part of the family, as you say. And I always love it when clients say, I want to speak to Teresa. Well, whenever they ring, say, oh no, I want to speak to Teresa. So that makes me feel very confident in what I'm doing at the reception area.
And you're right. I don't know that we had a couple of client events, a couple in Shepparton, and every time we speak about Teresa, there is always a very, very warm and long-standing applause. Very, very well respected, and I think there's a lot of gratitude for you not only throughout this business, but also through the clientele that actually love. Like you said, they'd much prefer to talk to you than they would to me. If they talk to me, they're generally saying, just put me through to Teresa. She'll sort it out for us.
Oh, I don't think so, Jay. I think it's because like someone said, oh, Teresa, you're still there. So they know that I'm here. They know I'm constant. I think that helps, and I love to help them. I love to get an answer for whatever their question is. So because many years talking to people.
Yeah, I think that constant, that's a good way of putting it because, the planners can be hard to get a hold of. Like they're either in appointments or they're in phone calls, but the constant in this business over the last decade has been you. When people walk in the door, they see Teresa. When people make a call, they get Teresa. So we're very, very fortunate to have had you for the last 10 years, Teresa. Let's talk a little bit about what the future holds for you. Like we're 10 years in. What does the future hold for Teresa?
Well, I don't feel old, we can talk to anybody. They don't feel their age. It's just a number, really, isn't it? And I would love to continue forever, but sometime I have to stop. And the future looks like more time for me, maybe, maybe going part-time, as you know, and spending more time to do what I want to do, go more to the gym or go for a walk whenever I want to. Whatever.
Play with the cats.
Play with my cats.
Are there any travel plans? One of the things I didn't ask was, have you been back to Italy? Have you been back to Italy?
Yes, we went back to Italy as a family many years ago. Italy, at both ends of Italy, Calabria and Teresa, and we went to Paris and in Europe as well, Germany. We've been all those places. Of course, yes, I have travelled, but it's not something that I look to do at the moment, but I would love to do it maybe in the future, but no plans at the moment.
No plans. Well, Teresa, it's been an honour to have you with us for the last 10 years. We love you very much. I know the clients, I can speak for them in saying they've loved having you at the front of house, looking after them for the last 10 years. And in whatever shape we still have you in the future, we look forward to that. So we love you very much. Thank you for your commitment to the business, and thanks for everything you've done to make the business what it is today.
Oh, thank you, Jay. And I like to say I'm very lucky to have this job. I know that I'm lucky to have this job, but often I go to pinch myself to say how lucky I am, because I know you could be doing nothing or you could be doing a terrible job, but I'm very lucky, and I do love you, Jay, and Peter, and all the staff. The staff is fantastic, and I want the clients to know how much you care for the clients, and you just want to do the right thing by them. And I know that, so that's why I enjoy my job as well.
It's a beautiful way to wrap it up. Thank you, Teresa. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you're keen to understand more about how financial advice could benefit you, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Burke Britton FP, or Google Burke Britton Financial Partners. Check out our client reviews, testimonials, and make a time to meet one of our certified financial planners by clicking Book Now on our website. Thanks for listening.
Any information contained in this podcast is of a general nature only. No account was taken as to the objectives, financial situation, or needs of any particular person. Therefore, before making any decision, listeners should consider the appropriateness of any information with regard to their particular objective, financial situation, needs, and seek independent advice from a licensed professional specific to their circumstances.
All right, hit it.
That translates to, don't be a moron and act on what some random person says on a podcast. Take personal responsibility, do your homework, ask questions, and speak to an actual human that knows what they're talking about before you do anything. PB Financial Solutions Proprietary Limited, trading as Burke Britton Financial Partners, are authorised representatives of AMP Financial Planning Limited, AFS, licence number 232706.